arise as the lead speaker for the party on this topic, with first of all noting that I've actually got personal experience of the opposite. Living in Russia, I was actually exposed to, well, being commanded by the KGB. And I do vividly recall standing, my passport handed over, standing at a railway station, seeking actually to leave the country, and being exposed to the difficult status of actually having no passport in a foreign country under the care of the KGB, care, I use the word carefully, and not knowing if I would get my passport back, be allowed to leave the spot where I was standing. And there was no way of oversight. That was completely under the vicarious attention of a very malignant organization which had complete control of every member of that society. We don't want that. We don't want anything like that in this country of ours. So I rise actually to oppose the motion based on my own personal experiences. I do, however, expect it to be forced through. And this troubles me a lot, because we haven't actually then got anything in the way of a consensus. This affects all of us, not simply 51% of the population as such. It affects every single one of us, and I think we ought to actually have a consensus approach to managing this problem. There are also other priorities. What about family law? What about the confiscation reform? There's manifest major injustices occurring right now in our society, which I think have precedence. Daily injustices. Okay. This bill being forced through actually affects only two people, the Premier and Mr. McKechnie. And I think that this is not proportional. I don't understand these priorities. Well, who am I? I'm not a member of the government. But there are manifest daily injustices being perpetrated, and we're not addressing them right now. Take, for example, the problem of me prescribing some cannabis to a patient in suffering severe pain. When he is stopped by the police and tested, they then determine that they have more power over my patient than I do. They don't care about the pain. You shouldn't be taking this and driving. Therefore, you're going to the magistrate. Therefore, you will have a criminal record. This matters to hundreds, if not thousands of people every day in our nation, and we ought to address this. Do we want the police to be determining what the doctor prescribes or not? Is that more important than the bruised feelings of Mr. McKechnie or indeed the Premier? Now, the CCC is important. It's vitally important. It's got a wide range of powers. It's imperative that we have leadership which is beyond reproach, is it not? It's essential also for the public to be 100% behind this organisation. Well, there will be those who wish not to be. I wouldn't like to be friends with those people. I would think of them as criminals or reprobates. The honest, ordinary public should be 100% the highest standards of a very important body. Now, the first appointment of Mr. McKechnie, I think, was very appropriate. I've heard things today I knew nothing about. I'm thankful for that information about the areas where he has fallen short, as indeed we all do. But now I'm not certain. The Honourable Wilson Tucker pointed out the statements that Mr. McKechnie made, and for the benefit of a Hansard and to refresh the memory, I'll read these words into the record. Speaking at St George's Cathedral on the 25th of November last, he said of the committee process to fill the Commissioner's role, the Liberal Party, which could have solved the problem, has shown no inclination to do so, apparently content to let the Commission flounder without a permanent head. And he went on to describe this as a deliberate and partially successful attempt on the part of the Liberal Party to lessen the effectiveness of the CCC. Now, I have to say I'm not a member of the Liberal Party, or indeed of any other party apart from this one. But I find that these remarks were made in a public forum and printed in the West Australian for all to see. That he can certainly do as a private individual. There's no reason why he shouldn't. He was no longer in the employ of the government. He may even have been right. But sadly, that isn't the point, is it? His comments made me question his impartiality going forward. This reflects on one of the most important of our important committees. It casts doubt on the very institution, Parliament. It casts doubt on you and me and every member here. And this is a matter of principle. I feel this is the major concern that we have got, is that the committee is being assaulted. And if that can happen to this committee, why not to every other committee? Members, consider this very carefully. Do we wish to allow the integrity of this House to be impugned, to be damaged by outside forces? I sincerely hope not. This is a sorry affair. Now, I don't attribute any blame to Mr. McKechnie. He's a private individual. He can say what he like. But when it comes to this particular role, I need to have the full confidence that he and the CCC are being well managed, and that our important committees here, with that oversight, are not going to be hindered in any way from the duties which we have. And to my mind, we do that by following the tried and tested procedures of this House and of the other place, not by abandoning them. We abide by the standing orders. Let me say that again. We abide by the standing orders. We do not let anyone dispense with the standing orders to achieve their desired outcome because they didn't like what we said. Now, it's also noted that we need a bipartisan approach. I don't like that word, bipartisan. We haven't got two parties. We've got a plurality of parties. We've all got a voice here. So we'll take the idea of being bipartisan and note that there was actually bipartisan, not tripartisan support in the committee, and that there was a difference of opinion. I wasn't there, I'm not now. But they tried again, did they not? So we've had a number of attempts to have Mr. McKechnie appointed, and a very respectable committee, staffed by very respectable honourable members, has twice reviewed this and twice said no. And this is the important fact to remember. Not the personality of Mr. McKechnie. Not even, indeed, how the CCC is functioning. That isn't our job. It's not a failing of the old Parliament. It's not even a failing of this Parliament, because what has happened has been a complete and correct approach according to the standards that we have had for quite a long time. And I think it's a sad reflection that we've now got to consider the integrity of our committee to appoint someone simply because he failed the first and the second time. I've got every confidence in the 4 members of the Joint Standing Committee. I know for a fact that the Honourable Steve Thomas and the Honourable Clara Andrich are honourable and worthy people. And similarly, I'm sure that Mr. Matthew Hughes, MLA, and Mr. Shane Love are both honourable and worthy people too. I must therefore trust in the outcome of that committee process, even if the outcome is an unfortunate deadlock. And if I must trust it, why not the Premier? Our predecessors put the requirement for this bipartisan approach in place, relied upon the committee, relied upon it to ensure it for good reason, members. There are checks and balances required when one has such an important organisation, headed by one man who has been granted extraordinary powers. We should not abandon these checks and balances because they're inconvenient to anyone or any organisation who might argue they have got more powers than any other citizen in Western Australia. We should cherish these checks and balances, cherish the committees and work with them, as indeed we work with all to achieve compromise. So I'm going to plead to the government, show some grace, work with the Parliament, work with this House. Do not dictate to us. Dictating to our House is simply unacceptable. As I understand it, there were 3 candidates suggested. All 3 would be worthy and honourable. And it's clear to everyone, I think, that Mr. McKechnie no longer has the bipartisan confidence of this Parliament. And to continue to push for that, I think, is not only arrogant, it's dangerous and foolhardy for future. So I would urge all colleagues to take this message back to Mr. McGowan. We will work with him. We want to work with him. We want to work with the CCC candidate who would be agreeable to all. We need to work together in a spirit of bipartisan support for the people of Western Australia who we represent. We need to have unfettered confidence in this. So all that needs to happen just now is for the Premier to choose a second name from those three provided to him, and for the Joint Standing Committee to again deliberate and come to a decision. I am confident that such a move would meet with success in short order, and we could all agree with that. It would allow us to get on with the challenge of scrutinising other bills and doing the proper work in helping the people of WA to achieve the life they desire. I would welcome that, and I presume that all here would also welcome it.